back for another edition of Armchair Quarterback. I'm David Allen, joined as always by Coach Guy Suttle, and sitting in for us this week on the every other week basis is Tim Foster, our normal producer, and he's back with us on air tonight. Apologize for our absence last week. I had a couple of people actually asked me about it, and I was like, well, first of all, I was stunned that somebody asked me, but I appreciate those of you that are watching, and I'm sorry that we were out last week, but we'll catch up today. And first of all, let's start with our high school football teams, as we always do. We'll start with the Burns Bulldogs, and big contest on Friday night, Coach, against Highland Tech. Didn't really work out that way.
No, but I tell you what, he had I think Burns had a couple of injuries, a couple of banged up players, and they were able to take care of business without even using those players. May not even suit them up, I'm not sure. But, yeah, I got a couple of players that are bruised up and banged up, and he's able to rest them.
Well, that's about the only positive I would say from playing a game like that. Coach, Tim. Yeah, Burns and Highland Tech, we're getting to Shelby and Bessemer City, but same kind of thing.
Yeah, the good thing for Burns, David, was the fact the last couple of weeks they've had a chance, with Cherryville and Bessemer City to get some guys healed up, as Guy mentioned, and that's what you want. They took care of business, and, sets the stage what we'll talk about in the second segment. But that's what you want. Anytime you go up to Highland Tech, the facilities are a little bit different up there, and the big thing is you got win number 6, and that's crucial.
Well, and I'll tell you how bad it was in our text thread that we have on Friday night, where we keep up with all of the county games. No report from Burns on Friday night. So there's your final score.
Yeah,
48-0 note. Give Highland Tech some credit. They beat Bessemer City and they hung with Burns. You remember they lost to Shelby 90-0. So 48-0, honestly, under the circumstances, not that bad. Game of the night, however, though, was our next one, Crest against Ashbrook. And guys, this one looked like it was going to be a Crest, maybe a runaway or a Crest big win early in this game, as Crest jumped out in front 14-0, Coach. But credit to Ashbrook, they hung in there and got back in it, and then second half it was a different story.
Yeah, it was a tale of two halves, obviously. But I thought that Crest went out there first series, moved the ball down the field very methodically, very businesslike, and really the same way with the second touchdown. It was the touchdown by Ashbrook with 1 minute and 30 seconds before the half that really changed the momentum, because not only did they score, but they knew they were going to get the ball to open up the second half.
Well, Tim, we were talking about it before we went on air, and this was just a game between two heavyweights, and as Guy said, sometimes it doesn't take a whole lot to swing momentum, and then when it gets turned around,
And this is when it turned around right here. To this point, Crest had outgained them 19-16, and it all flipped, as Guy mentioned, right after this, and it was a different ball game. And really, Crest just never seemed to have physically or emotionally be in the ball game. And then this guy right here, A.J. McClain, guys, 3 touchdown passes on the night. I think he was 9 of 14 for almost 200 yards passing against a pretty good secondary. And look at this, yards after the catch. It's something we hadn't seen a lot of teams do, other than maybe at times Shelby and, of course, Weddington. And then Crest on their heels there. There's a pass play. And this is, I believe it's 14-14 at this point. But this pass right here, guys, look at McClain. That's just a bullet right in the middle of the end zone, 21-14. And then let's talk about this last part of the game, David. This is Crest trying to go to a bag of tricks. It was like, 3.5 minutes. They were able to just to turn this into something. But you're going to see these last couple of plays where Crest had 2 chances from the 1-yard line to get it to possibly overtime. Who knows? Coach Lloyd may have went for 2 to try to win it. They're pushing, they can't get in. David Grayson and Ron McCraw did a great job of storytelling. Look, the ball's on the 1-yard line, and here we are, David. Final play, Crest cannot get in. And, Guy, what did you see there that Ashbrook did to stop Crest on that play?
Well, they just submarined that line. They got a push. They just got a better push than the Crest offensive line, and that was a difference in that one play. They submarined it, linebackers over the top, linemen underneath, and they just got to push.
Obviously, I was not at that ball game, so, Coach, I wasn't able to see and know how that second half played out. But obviously, I know that when Crest was going for it there with like 12 seconds left. They did not have a timeout. So did they burn a timeout early that they didn't, they shouldn't have?
They did early in the fourth quarter, correct, and it came back to bite them,
Yeah, it did.
Yep.
So.
All right, so final one, and this one, tough loss for the Chargers, 21-14. And hey, listen, we have said all year long, it's Crest, Kings Mountain, South Point, and usually somebody else. Well, by goodness, the somebody else was the Ashbrook Green Wave this year. They have taken care of business. They beat South Point, they beat Kings Mountain, now they beat Crest, and I assume they close out with Hunter Huss on Friday night.
They do, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it had Crest at home. They played South Point at home, Kings Mountain
at home.
Kings
And they
Mountain.
get
So
Huss at home.
all three big games that are the three that we talk about. It's like you said, Crest, Kings Mountain, South Point, and plus one. They had all three of them at home.
And
Well,
David,
that gotta help.
yeah, the big story for me, Crest was averaging 47 points a game. They shut them out in the second half. That was the big story Friday night too.
Yeah, big story for me is you got all four of those games at home. You should have made a lot of money this year.
They had a big crowd
And
Friday.
they should be
happy.
And they better stack some of that up because next year all those games are on the road, so their home schedule next year will be terrible, as Charles Barkley would say. So final that was 21-14. Now we'll go over to Kings Mountain. Kings Mountain, just trying to bounce back and survive a little bit because they have taken 2 beatings in a row to South Point and Ashbrook, coach, and got well a little bit on Friday night against Huss.
Yeah, and Huss is, we've talked about Huss. Huss is dangerous because of the number of athletes they put on the field. But the question for them is what are they going to look like up front. And Kings Mountain took care of business. And, it's hard to get, when you're on a losing streak, that very next win is that's going to be a tough one to get.
Well, no question, it was a good win for Kings Mountain, but that game was a ball game. I want to say it was 14-7. Long into that game, I'm not sure about exactly when Kings Mountain finally pulled away. I think they ended up 31-14. But Tim, obviously that's a big win for them going into Crest. And of course, Crest will be coming off a tough loss, so that's going. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, big momentum win for Coach Heron and the Mountaineers. And the thing for me, as you talked about, if you talk about Huss, they've hung around against good teams all year. It seems to be that second half, and Kings Mountain did that. Kings Mountain defensively played much better than they had the previous 2 weeks against Ashbrook and South Point, 2 really good teams. And they finished that game off, and I know they've got to be happy with some momentum, as you mentioned, with Crest coming to town, and we'll talk about it later.
Definitely needed that. Final game of the week, and we saw the final score there. It
Yeah.
was 31-14. Final game of the week, Shelby at home against Bessemer City. Homecoming for the Golden Lions. A late homecoming. We got some highlights. A late homecoming. So I was thinking maybe we'll see some long dresses like back in 1986. Didn't happen, but that's all right. 86, the girls were wearing wool.
You told me it was cold that night.
Oh, it was cold, but it was wool dresses all the way down to the floor. The big story in this one, and you see this is the first touchdown of the game. Land Farmer dumps it off. Williams, JJ goes the distance. This was the kind of way it was the entire first half for Shelby, and it was enough in the passing game early in that game for Land Farmer to become the all-time leading passer in Cleveland County, past Ben Mooney. He is at 8,321 when they took him out of the game the other night, Coach.
Yeah.
So I think the record was at 15, so he got another 5 or 6 yards. They pull him out, let him come to the sideline and whatnot. But that's a major accomplishment.
Oh, yeah, and if you go back and I'm going to say over the last 20 years, probably 25, when the game really started to change a lot into a passing game. We know as well as anyone through the early 2000s with Shelby, most of their passes were a 4-yard lateral. It was the pitch. So, for him to make this big a step and to have the all-time record for Cleveland County, that's saying a lot because think of all the passing quarterbacks that have gone through this county over the last 20 years.
Oh, absolutely. I was just rolling off with Ben Mooney, obviously being the current, the most recent record holder. But I was thinking about, just the 2 at Burns that he had to pass in Troy Goss and Lance Camp.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
good gracious alive. You're talking about guys that could spin it.
Yeah, and spun it with authority. I mean, and think about the people that they were throwing it to also, the Briscoes, and I mean, it was just, the list just goes on and on and on. But yeah, that is a tremendous accomplishment by Land Farmer just to write that record book.
Absolutely. Final score in this one, Shelby all over Bessemer, 65-0. The final in that one. And of course, that sets up the big county rival game as we got a pair of those to finish up the regular season. We'll talk about those when we come back. You're watching Armchair Quarterback.
She gets her hair from her mom, her eyes from her dad, and her drugs from her home medicine cabinet. Fact: more people die from drug overdoses than from car crashes or gun violence. And over 50% of those deaths are from prescription drugs. Prescription drug abuse is preventable. 1. Secure and take regular inventory of our medications. 2. Dispose of unused or expired medications. 3. Share this message with others. Be aware, don't share, lock your meds.
Welcome back in for our second half of Armchair Quarterback. I'm David Allen, joined as always by Coach Guy Suttle and our buddy Tim Foster sitting in this week. Hey, listen, one thing's for sure, we got two games to talk about for Friday night, and these are the ones that you kind of been aiming to the whole season, at least the conference part of it, because even though in the Shelby Burns department and in the Crest Kings Mountain department, some other people got involved this year in the conference race.
Yeah.
But let's start with Burns and Shelby. This game is for a share of the conference championship because they both have lost head-to-head to Lincoln, but Lincoln messed up and lost to Stuart Kramer. So now whoever wins this Shelby Burns game on Friday night, Coach, will have a share of the conference championship.
Now, but this is to get your name on the trophy. Yes, it's going to be co-champions, but you're going to get your name on the trophy, on the plaque that you can put in the trophy case. You add that, the seating possibilities that could come out of that with 3A and 4A. Either way, it's going to be it is a meaningful game for co-champions, for seating purposes, everything, including county purposes, everything involved is going to come down to this Friday night. And let's go ahead and say a little bit more. It's a tough week of preparation. I mean, the weather's bad today. They're not asking for a whole lot better tomorrow. And then it dumps back down on Wednesday, according to the forecast. So this is going to be a tough preparation week for all four of these teams, and both of these games have a lot riding on them.
No question about that, Tim. One of the things when you look at this game, Burns a little bit one-dimensional on offense with Max Davis being the man. We said that early on, and we know now that is the case.
Yeah.
But I think that's the case. So I think maybe one of the keys for that Burns offense against the Shelby defense is what can Drew Dixon do in the air.
Yeah, Dixon's going to have to be able to throw it some because we know Davis is great. Davis will have to have a big game on the ground, David, but you'd love to be able to get a little bit at least through the air. Shelby defensively is going to try to take that run away and make him have to throw the ball. But if Burns can do that, this could be a competitive battle. I think the question for the Burns on the other side of the ball, can Burns get enough pressure on Land Farmer? Burns has struggled against good quarterbacks this year. When you think about it, they're going to see one with Farmer. We think about with Lincolnton, even Kramer, even though they won that game, and even going back to Crest and Kings Mountain early in the year. But this is a Burns team that's scrappy, they're tough, and as Coach Suttle has mentioned, they've had some time to get healed up. And I find it really interesting that both teams, their three losses were to the same teams, Crest, Kings Mountain, and Lincolnton. Mm-hmm. It'll be a battle, but can Burns slow down that Shelby offense for 4 quarters at Shelby? Burns hadn't won at Shelby in a long time. That's going to be the question, going back quite a few years.
Coach, one of the things we just talking about the Burns offense against the Shelby defense. On the flip side, the Shelby offense against the Burns defense, the Golden Lions, of course, Jalen Tate got hurt in the Lincoln game. We didn't see him against East Gaston or Bessemer City. Jonas Woods, the freshman, has been taking his place. Not sure whether or not we'll see Jalen Tate, but Shelby's ability to run the football to kind of take some pressure off Land Farmer and the passing attack is a key for Shelby offensively.
Yeah, yes. And but Land's going to add to his county record. I think that, and we've seen it on the highlights and all year. A lot of those yards after the catch help him. It's a different way to get the ball to your athletes in space. I know what you're saying. Sometimes you just got to have the zone read to take some pressure off, so they're just not hanging back and pinning their ears back up front. But with that being said, we'll just have to wait Friday and see what the lineup looks like. But Land's going to add to his county record easily.
The other key to me for Shelby is the penalties, Tim.
Yeah.
The penalties have just been,
they've been
atrocious for Shelby the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and that's a concern in this game, and it's a real concern when you get in the playoffs because, a couple of penalties, as you guys know, when you get in the playoffs, it can come down to 1 or 2 plays. It reminds me of that Crest Ashford game the other night. It really came down to 1 or 2 plays that decided the game. And, and come playoff time for all 4 of our county teams, you have got to cut out those penalties. Turnovers and penalties will flat out destroy you come playoff time. They've got to cut that out. If they have a tough night with penalties, look out. Burns hangs around. It's going to be an interesting game.
Absolutely. Well, I said the other night, if you can't hold your temper against Bessemer City when you're up 40-0, what's going to happen when you're in that county matchup for a conference championship? So anyway, Shelby got to take care of business with the penalties on Friday night, no question about it. Final game of the week and the big one in the Big South for us is Kings Mountain and Crest. This game is at Kings Mountain. You look at that record for Kings Mountain, you say 6-3. Wow, that's really not that bad. But, buddy, they've struggled the last couple weeks, Coach.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes the Hunter Husk game such a more important game or important victory there for Kings Mountain. It kind of calms the waters a little bit that were turbulent during that time. They're not losing. And, it's going to be a big crowd. It's going to be a raucous crowd. It's going to be a county rival. It does have, again, it has implications on playoffs as far as the seeding goes to whether or not you get a bye, whether you get one home game or no home games. So, it's just going to be interesting. I think that it is going to be Crest offense. Can they generate enough against Kings Mountain's defense? And vice versa. Can Kings Mountain's offense go enough against the Crest defense because of the type of plays kind of actually play into the defense's hands? So we'll see.
Tim, I think in general you would think Crest has the advantage in this one when you look at comparative scores and things such as that because of Kings Mountain struggles against South Point and Ashbrook. And of course, Crest, really went to work against South Point.
Yeah.
But, Crest is coming off a very difficult loss Friday night, and how they bounce back from that could be the difference in the ballgame.
A couple of things to think about Friday night. Kings Mountain's unbeaten at home this year. Greg Lloyd's going back to Kings Mountain for a place he coached for 20 years for the first time. There's going to be a lot of emotions involved, not only, for coaches, but for players. Can Kings Mountain slow down to Crest? I don't expect Crest offense to struggle 2 weeks in a row. But, again, what's the mindset after coming off that loss last week? And at the same time, for the Mountaineers, I think they've got to have big plays. They got to go to Big Tech William, Tex Vaughn.
Yeah.
I think they've got an advantage there against that Crest secondary. Got to go to him. But can they slow down Crest for 4 quarters? What's the mindset of that? And as Coach mentioned, this game's got a lot of implications. That loss from Crest the other night may put them on the road much quicker than they wanted to. And for Kings Mountain, a loss, it could be the difference between having next Friday night off or you going somewhere maybe at home to play or even on the road. Most likely probably at home, but there's still a lot to be decided, and it's going to be a big game Friday night.
Yeah, hard to believe that 4 losses will get you a home game, but maybe it will. I don't know. But
who knows?
I don't know. One thing I don't know about what's going on at Kings Mountain at home games this year. I don't know if Scott Neisler's still firing off the fireworks after they score, after they win. But I guarantee you they beat Crest on Friday night. That victory bell will be ding-a-ling down there at the field house.
Yeah,
so, anyway.
It definitely will be. And I would just say, a lot of people talk about RPIs, and I've had a discussion over the weekend with folks saying, well, this team beat another team, but yet the team that won is lower than that team in the RPI. Figuring out this formula, guys, is very, very tricky. But the thing I've noticed, it looks like for our Cleveland County teams, barring something a little different, that they're going to be on the road by most of them, all 4 of them, by the 3rd round, which is a little different than we've
Yeah.
seen years past.
Yeah.
But it just shows how good and balanced the state's been this year.
No question about it. All right, so that's the schedule for this Friday night. Two big ones: Burns at Shelby, Crest at Kings Mountain. Finish up the regular season, and then I heard a rumor it's going to be Monday before we get the pairings.
Yeah,
so,
and I was going to say, I hope we have before we tape next week, guys. I may
Yeah.
have to have somebody bringing. I may have to get Holly bringing in the brackets as we're recording next week. It's crazy.
Hey, we'll just hand me a piece of paper. We'll read it live on air.
That's right.
Hey, I can roll with the punches on that one.
What's up with that?
Yeah, what is up with that?
Yeah, a lot of the coaches were not too happy about that.
I
North Carolina.
can imagine. I
Yeah.
can definitely imagine. All right, big weekend in college football. We got winners and losers. Coach, let's start with your winner.
Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. I thought that was a huge win. It makes them relevant again.
Yeah.
I say again, maybe for the first time, but it does make Ole Miss relevant.
Big win over Oklahoma was Ole Miss, and of course and we'll talk about this here in just a second because I don't want to take winner and loser from either one of you. But with jobs opening, Lane Kiffin will be at the top of the list of names thrown out about all these job openings, whether it's Penn State, whether it's Florida, now whether it's the one you're getting ready to talk about. We'll get back to you in a minute. All right, who's your winner this week, Tim?
Well, I got a couple of Georgia Tech 8-0. People talking about they could be in the playoff, and then Texas A&M. What a job that finished off Brian Kelly at LSU 8-0. This is a team that's got a chance to possibly be in the playoff with a bye. I think they're headed for a showdown with Alabama in the SEC championship game. And I'm even going to mention again Gardner-Webb, 5-3 at this point of the season after the last 5 or 6 years. And I know we're going to talk about going to Tennessee Tech, but 5 wins as we head into November. That's for them. That's impressive right now.
That's big time. I'm going with my winner, Indiana. They absolutely took UCLA behind the woodshed. Remember, this is the UCLA team that ended the Franklin era at Penn State a couple of weeks ago when they had the big upset of them, and Indiana absolutely blitzed them. Indiana up to number 2 in the country. Cignetti's going to get – he's going to get the biggest extension ever in the history of extensions at Indiana, or he's going to be at one of these other schools. I don't know which the case. All right, who's your loser, Coach?
It's got to be LSU. LSU's a loser there. He's talking about Indiana. I mean, if you want to talk about job openings at LSU, at Florida, Penn State. I mean, that Indiana, that guy's going to be courted on that one. And I heard people talking about, University of South Carolina, that Beamer might be on the hot seat. With those openings in the SEC, you better keep Beamer. Because right now, you don't want to compete with LSU, Florida, or Penn State for the top 3 coaches in this country, and you're sitting at South Carolina going, come on down.
Well, they just extended Beamer too, so, I mean, whatever.
But
who's your loser, Tim?
Yeah, NC State. We've talked about them, David. There was some promise to start the year, but just completely gave up, 50-some-odd to Pittsburgh the other day. Major problems. They can't stop anybody right now, and, even Carolina's at least, even though they're losing close games, playing a little bit better defense. NC State, to me, is really dropping to the bottom of the ACC right now, David.
Well, you touched on my loser. My loser of the week is the haters, because I'm telling you, Carolina came within an inch and a half of winning 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
They lost them both on 2 inches. I'm telling you, the heels are coming, and Wolfpack don't want none. I'm just saying, and neither do the Blue Devils. But we'll save that for another week. Hey, we're almost out of time. We got to hurry up. Panthers, holy cow! What happened to the Panthers yesterday?
Well, what happened to the Panthers is they ran into a very mad, determined
Buffalo team.
week Buffalo team that had something to prove, and they did. Well, and I'm going to tell you, Dalton, he just killed them.
Oh, my goodness.
He just killed them.
Listen, I heard Cam Newton talking about how Derek Anderson was one of the keys to his development as a professional quarterback, because Derek Anderson was the guy at Carolina as the veteran backup to Cam. Andy Dalton, I'm sure, has been an excellent veteran backup to Bryce Young as far as teaching him how to be a pro and all that kind of stuff. But he can't play anymore, Coach.
No, he. It was an embarrassing performance by him. Would it have been better with Bryce? I think a little bit better. But I go back to this running game. All right, so we remember what Rico did 2 weeks in a row. but yet he's not getting the same carries. And I'm not taking anything away from Hubbard and what he's doing. You know, the lack of focus wasn't there. Coach Suttle's right. Buffalo was fired up. But, you know, that early turnover was a killer, but I'm giving Rico more carries. And you got to look at the reality, David, of the schedule right now. We knew it was going to be tough with Buffalo, and now going to Green Bay Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, you better enjoy it over 500 Carolina Panther fans because it's going to end quick. The question is, can you recover on the backside? Because you still got 2 with Tampa. New Orleans are winnable games. It's still Panthers got a tough road ahead, even at 4-4 right now.
What I'll say about the Rico Dowdle Chuba Hubbard thing is you got to ride the hot hand. You cannot go in with a predetermined every other series.
Nope.
Yep.
That doesn't work. When Rico Dowdle yesterday had a 5-5-24, and then the next series he goes to the bench, that's not going to work. When you go 5-5-24, you're the next guy in there until you go 2 yards in a cloud of dust about 3 times, which Chuba did all day yesterday. I'll let Dave Canales figure it out, but he needs to go with riding the hot hand. How about my Cowboys yesterday? Absolutely got smoked by the Broncos. Never was a ball game.
One of the worst defenses I've seen the last 5 years, David, in the NFL, and that's sad because their offense is really good. Dak's having a phenomenal MVP year, but the bottom line is they're not going to beat anybody that has any kind of talent, any kind of offensive talent, because they're dead. I was looking statistically, David. They're dead last in every category.
Speaking of bad defenses, Coach, Cincinnati lost to the Jets yesterday.
On a trick play.
39-38.
On a trick play, you're right. Yeah, I mean, defense in the NFL, if you look historically at the Super Bowl, it's the ones with the best defense that get there or at least make it to the Final Four. And if you can't play defense in the NFL, you don't have a chance. I mean, you absolutely cannot outscore your opponent. Kansas City was a good example of that last year in the Super Bowl. You just can't get there just by outscoring your opponent every week by double digits.
Don't look now, but the New England Patriots are back, and they are enjoying the play of one former North Carolina Tar Heel. Drake May is playing extremely well.
He's playing phenomenal. I mean, and they're right there. And the big difference, their coach, Vrabel's a tremendous coach. I knew he had the ability to change that franchise. Didn't know it would come this quick. And guys, I got to ask you, are the Indianapolis Colts Super Bowl contenders? I mean, are they? They look really good. Some people say, oh, they'll fade. They look pretty good to me right now.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Jonathan Taylor has scored 3 touchdowns in 4 games this year. And if you're a fantasy guy like I am, that is gold from a running back to score that many touchdowns. And so, yes, the Indianapolis Colts are looking extremely good right now. But, Coach, let me get real quick another one of our local teams, quote unquote. What's going on with the Falcons? They, my goodness, they got hammered by one of the worst teams in the NFL yesterday, the Dolphins.
Yeah, and 1 week they can go out and look so good, win a big ball game against a contender, and then they lose to the Panthers, and they lose to, they just, I don't know. There's got to be a problem in the locker room there. I think there's a locker room problem.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to see more and more, David, that Tampa's starting to separate themselves. And are they going to eventually, and you hate to say it, you hope the Panthers are in there, but are they just going to run away with this NFC South eventually?
Yeah, well, Bijan Robinson only getting 8 carries yesterday is one of the major problems in Atlanta. And I guarantee you if Arthur Smith were still down there as the head coach, and boy would be getting 38 carries a game, not 8. Speaking of Arthur Smith, his Pittsburgh Steelers got thumped last night by Green Bay. Big game on Monday Night Football tonight with Kansas City taking on the Commanders without Jaden Daniels. We've talked about all of that, but we're out of time and we got to go. So we'll see you right back here next week, right here on Armchair Quarterback.